How could the Mongols, experts of open field combat, find themselves stalled in the middle of Europe once again? Perhaps it was the ring of fortified towns, the determined Polish defense, and the unexpected intervention of Hungary during the third Mongol invasion of Poland from 1287 to 1288 that ultimately brought their campaign to frustration and retreat. By the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire still commanded fear across Eurasia, but it was no longer the unstoppable machine it had once been under Genghis Khan or Batu. Internal disputes, succession struggles, and the fragmentation of the empire into khanates reduced its ability to launch coordinated invasions of Europe. Yet the Golden Horde under Nogai Khan still sought to assert dominance over Eastern Europe, and Poland once again stood in their path. The campaign of 1287 to 1288 was carefully designed as a two-pronged invasion. Learning from earlier expeditions, the Mongols realized that Poland's defense no longer relied on open battles, but on fortified towns and castles that blocked key routes. To overcome this, they divided their forces. One wing would strike southern Poland through the Carpathians, aiming to devastate the Krakow region, while another advanced through the Lublin area, seeking to outflank and pressure central Poland. The strategy reflected the Mongols' traditional reliance on mobility, dispersal, and psychological terror, but it underestimated how much Poland had adapted since 1241 and 1259. On the Polish side, the lesson of previous disasters had not been forgotten. The nobility of Lesser Poland, centered around Krakow, had invested in stone fortifications and defensive networks. Castles such as Sandomierz, Krakow, and numerous smaller strongholds were not only repaired but provisioned for prolonged sieges. This was a direct response to earlier Mongol raids, which had shown the vulnerability of wooden fortifications. Furthermore, Duke Leszek II the Black coordinated with local magnates and townsmen to ensure that supplies were stockpiled, communication routes were maintained, and cavalry levies could respond quickly to Mongol incursions. Another crucial difference lay in alliances, whereas in 1241, Poland had fought almost in isolation. In 1287, it found support from King Ladislaus IV of Hungary, who dispatched troops northwards. The Hungarians themselves had suffered devastating Mongol invasions in the past and were determined not to allow their northern neighbor to fall. This external assistance would prove decisive as it forced the Mongols to fight a more complicated war than they had anticipated. Thus, while the Mongols relied on their traditional strategies of speed, intimidation, and divide and conquer tactics, Poland prepared by relying on stone, discipline, and allies. The stage was set for a very different kind of confrontation, one where the horsemen of the steppe would clash not against scattered levies in the field, but against walls, garrisons, and a network of coordinated defenses. The Mongol army that entered Poland in late 1287 was not as overwhelming as the massive horde of 1241, but it was still formidable. Contemporary accounts suggest a force of perhaps 20,000 to 30,000 men, largely cavalry, with a significant component of horse archers supported by heavier lancers and siege engineers. The army was divided into two principal wings, one under Telebuga, who led the strike through Red Ruthenia into southern Poland, and the other under Nogai's subordinate commanders, who advanced through the Lublin region to pressure central and northern Poland. And the Polish defense, by contrast, was numerically weaker. Duke Leszek II commanded the forces of Lesser Poland, reinforced by Hungarian contingents sent by Ladislaus IV. Polish armies of this period were typically composed of heavy cavalry knights, supported by lesser nobles and urban militias. What they lacked in numbers, they compensated for in the strength of fortified strongholds and in the strategic use of geography. The Mongols' campaign began with rapid incursions across the border, burning villages and attempting to isolate Krakow. Yet, unlike in 1241, the city was not an easy prize. Krakow's stone fortifications had been reinforced, and the garrison refused to be drawn into open battle. Mongol siege tactics, effective against some fortresses in Asia, struggled against the stubborn Polish resistance and the thick stone walls. After weeks of skirmishes and failed attempts, Telebuga withdrew in frustration. Simultaneously, the northern wing pushed into Lublin and Sandomierz. Here, too, they found towns closed and defended, with garrisons refusing to surrender. Polish knights avoided rash engagements in the open field, instead shadowing Mongol movements and striking isolated raiding parties. This war of attrition blunted the momentum of the steppe warriors, who relied on swift victories and continuous movement. The decisive shift came with the intervention of Hungarian troops. Moving north through the Carpathians, they threatened the Mongol supply lines and rear positions, facing not just Polish castles, but also a mobile Hungarian army. The Mongols risked encirclement. Unable to draw the defenders into decisive combat and increasingly vulnerable to counterattacks, they began to withdraw in early 1288. While no single dramatic pitched battle defined this campaign, unlike the disaster at Legnica in 1241, the Third Mongol invasion of Poland became a grinding failure for the invaders. Their armies were harassed, delayed, and denied the plunder and decisive victories they sought. In contrast, the Poles demonstrated that a disciplined strategy of fortification, coordination, and allied support could blunt even the most feared cavalry force of the medieval world. The Mongol retreat in 1288 left Krakow and Sandomierz secure, sparing Poland from the fate of earlier invasions. This success encouraged stronger fortification programs and closer cooperation with Hungary, shaping Poland's regional strategy for the next century.